Looks like I'm going to be ready to go before our time, which is wonderful. So take a couple of minutes and take a nice deep breath and relax. Today's lesson is love created me like itself. All right, just doing a final sound check. Looks like I'm going out. I'm going to check my other sources and then I'll get going and describe why love created me like itself. You know what's relaxing to me? It might make you laugh a little bit, but just showing up a couple of minutes early so that everything is already waiting and I've got even today's video lined up on the A Course in Miracles.live site. So even when I'm done, lesson 67 will be up there and ready to go. Kind of just makes everything a little bit easier. I know there's still going to be stuff I'm scrambling for after I go live because it invariably, one of the pictures is out of the alignment or something, but man, sometimes showing up just a little bit early makes all the difference in the world.
Do you want me to leave this link from the group, or do you want the link from CourseInMiracles.live?
These are such good questions.
Which
I still want to go and make the A Course in Miracles.live place have the links to all the other stuff so that it's easy for you to set one and not worry about it again.
Okay.
But I think the easiest place for most people is still to go to the Facebook group. So I haven't quite transitioned there yet.
Okay, great.
All right. I'm going to get started in about 30 seconds. All right, I have a countdown timer on this little stream that I'm doing, and it counts down from 10, and I thought it was counting down seconds, and I never checked. It's definitely not counting down seconds. It's like twice as fast as a second, because it gets to 0 before I get there every single time. Anyway.
Who was it yesterday who was talking about holding? I mentioned holding hands, and they said that was very special to them when I said it. And a little bit later, I got a picture of all four: Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Lion and the Tin Man, all holding hands, and they're off to see the wizard. Sometimes it seems like that, doesn't it?
That we're off to see the wizard?
Yes.
It definitely
That would
feels
be
that
you,
way
Lee.
sometimes. Yeah.
You're the one who's handling all of the electronics and technology.
I want to be the lion. I don't want to be a crow.
No problem.
Don't pay any attention to that man behind the curtain.
Okay.
I have a feeling I'm going to be stuck playing the Tin Man again.
No. She won't let you.
Love created me like itself, Dad.
There you go.
Love created me like itself.
Can't be a Tin Man anymore.
All right. Let's get relaxed. take this message in. Lesson 67. Welcome to March 8th at 6:37 in the morning on the East Coast. I'm so glad you guys are here with me. Today's lesson is Love Created Me Like Itself. Today's idea that love created me like itself is a complete and accurate statement of what you are, which is only love. This idea that love created you like itself is why you are the light of the world. This idea that love created you like itself is why God appointed you as the world's Savior. This is why the Son of God looks to you for salvation. The Son of God is saved by what you are, which is only love. We will make every effort today to reach this truth about you and to realize fully, if only for a moment, that love created you like itself. And that is the truth. In the longer practice periods today, we will think about your reality that love created you like itself and love's wholly unchanged and unchangeable nature. We will begin by repeating this truth about you, that love created you like itself. And then we'll spend a few minutes adding some relevant thoughts, such as holiness created me holy, kindness created me kind, helpfulness created me helpful, perfection created me perfect. Any attribute which is in accord with a God of love, as God defines himself, is appropriate for use. We're trying today to undo your ego's fear-based definition of God and replace the ego's false, fearful God of judgment, that's little g God, with God's own definition of itself, which is only love, all in caps there. We are also trying to emphasize that you are part of a loving God's definition of himself. After you have gone over several such related thoughts, try to let all these thoughts drop away for a brief preparatory interval. Then try to reach past all your images and preconceptions about yourself to the truth in you that God created you like itself. If love created you like itself, this big S, self, must be inside of you. And somewhere inside of your mind, it's there for you to find. This big S self is inside of you. You may find it necessary to repeat the idea for today, that love created you like itself, from time to time to replace distracting thoughts. You may also find that this is not sufficient and that you need to continue adding other thoughts related to the truth about yourself, being created only with the attributes of love itself. Yet perhaps you will succeed in going past that and through the interval of thoughtlessness to the awareness of a blazing light in which you recognize yourself as love created you. Be confident that you will do much today to bring that awareness nearer. whether you feel you have succeeded or not. It will be particularly helpful today if you practice the idea for the day that love created you like itself as often as you can. You need to hear the truth about yourself as frequently as possible because your mind is so preoccupied with false, egoic, fear-based self-images. 4 or 5 times an hour, perhaps even more. It would be beneficial to remind yourself that love created you like itself. Hear the truth about yourself in this statement. Love created you like itself. Try to realize in the shorter practice periods that this is not your tiny, solitary voice that whispers, love created you like itself. This is the voice for God, reminding you of your Father and of your higher self. This is the voice of truth, the Holy Spirit, replacing everything that the ego tells you about yourself with the simple truth about the Son of God. You were created by love like itself. That is the lesson for today. Love created me like itself. Thank you guys for joining me here. I really appreciate you coming and lending your energy to this. It helps a bunch. That was our lesson of the day. Here's some quick notes, and then I'll do a meditation. And Stephanie's here today, so hopefully she'll help me with the breath work. And I think we'll be ready for our day by 7 a.m. We'll be accomplished. If you have a timer program or anything you can do to set yourself a reminder, the text said 4 to 5 times an hour. So that would break down into like once every 10 minutes, once every 12 minutes, somewhere in there. If you want to send a 15-minute reminder, it's simple today. Love created me like itself. The physical world was designed to confuse us. It presents false evidence that we assume to be true. In the physical world, we have 2 different parents, and the children are not carbon copies of their parents. Therefore, one might question the idea that like begets like. Even in the physical world, where there's only one parent, does like appear to produce like? Oh, even the physical, where there is. Okay, we're going into Dolly. I forgot what we were talking about for a minute. All right, let's go to Dollywood. When the sheep Dolly was cloned, all of Dolly's offspring appeared to be replicas of their single parent Dolly. ACIM states that God is only unconditional love. Unconditional love does not hold anything back. When God creates, God being all, gives all to all. Creation is the extension of the oneness of all that is. There is no separation. There remains one holographic mind of God. A hologram isn't like a photograph. If you cut a photograph into 2 parts, each part would only have half of the original picture. If you contrast this with a hologram of a rose, for instance, when you cut that hologram, right, that shiny picture, into a bunch of little parts, and you shine a laser beam through any of those parts, a focused piece of light, all right, laser coherent light, the image of the whole rose can be reproduced. You wouldn't see it directly if you look at it, but every bit of a hologram has the entirety of the holographic information within it, every pixel. In a true hologram, all parts contain the whole, and the whole is contained inside of each part. The mind of God is holographic in nature. It can't be separated into parts. It is an indivisible one self. God, being love, can only extend love. Separation can only appear to be real within the imagination of the deluded mind that perceives itself to be separate and different from its source. Each of us has an ego, and that is the ego is such a delusional mind. A previous lesson stated that you cannot conceive of your creator being different than yourself. Because of this, your ego has created a false God in its own distorted egoic image. Because the ego believes that giving requires sacrifice, the ego does not believe that God would give all to us. The ego believes that if God were like itself, God would hold something back. This is basically due to the ego's belief in separation. The ego denies that love or God created you like itself because your ego lives in fear. Fear is love's opposite. They cannot coexist. The ego's thought system is a fear-based thought system. Because the ego only gives to get, it cannot conceive of a creator different from itself. Your ego denies you your divine birthright. Due to its belief in separation, your ego must argue that either a God of love does not exist or didn't create you like itself. There's a third alternative. It's that you offended God and you lost your divine birthright. Because your ego projects its own fear-based thoughts outside of its own mind, it perceives a God in its own fear-based image. The real God of love is transformed into a petty, egoic, judgmental, little g God that can be hurt and seek revenge. The ego fears this God of wrath. Therefore, it's imagined a world where it can hide from this God's punishment. Because the ego believes God is something to be feared, it argues for the need to keep the child separate from its father. It argues. It argues for the rightness of its belief that God cannot be only love at the cost of your happiness. To the ego, your safety is contingent on maintaining your distance from the God your ego fears. Let's take a nice deep breath together and listen to Stephanie help get us in a good position to receive this beautiful message today.
Thanks, Lee. Good morning, everybody. I invite you, wherever you are sitting or standing, to just start to ground yourself. I invite you to notice your feet on the floor beneath you, wherever you're contacting the floor. And if it's possible, maybe take your hands and put them on your stomach and your chest. I invite you to bring your awareness to how you're breathing this morning. Just notice as you inhale and exhale if your breath is fast or slow. Smooth or rough. Notice as you inhale and exhale if you hold your breath anywhere. And the next time you take a deep breath in, I invite you to breathe into your stomach and fill all the way up to your collarbones. Noticing how expansive you feel. And as you exhale, imagine your breath going right into Mother Earth, right into the ground. Take a deep breath in, filling all the way up. And maybe as you exhale, release with a sound. Ah. And release. Lee, go ahead, babe.
Thanks, Steph. I really appreciate that. Love created me like itself. Today's idea is complete. It's accurate, and it shows us where God really wants us to focus. Let's make every effort today to try and reach this truth. If you could realize it fully, just for a moment, it will change your entire reality that you experience. It will let you see your wholly unchanged true nature of yourself. So take a couple of moments. Take this thought into yourself. Let your imagination play with it so it can realize the truth of it. Love. God, as love, created me as a part of God. Love created me like itself. Holiness created me holy. Kindness created me kind. Helpfulness created me helpful. Perfection created me perfect. A candle that's used to light another candle doesn't lose a thing. Light created me as light. Love created me as love, to extend love, to share love with everyone, regardless of their actions. Today, I can take a moment to remember that in the safeness of my mind, I can hold others with love, no matter what they've done, to allow forgiveness to deliver me the blessing of moving on. That blazing light that you recognize inside of yourself as love created inside of you will grow and share with all of those around you. Take time, every hour, as many times as you can today, to remember you are love, created whole and holy by God, who is love and made you as God is. You are love incarnate. Take that with you today and everybody will see the difference in you. Today is going to be an absolutely wonderful Tuesday. Take a couple of deep breaths. Come back to yourself here with me. You'll have this gift with you all day long today, and you can share your light. We're headed towards spring. Life is getting better, one day at a time. Thank you all for joining me this morning. We've got a great little question of the day. Today it's many religions, including the Western religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all support the idea that God should be feared. These are all the Abrahamic religions, right? And Abraham, we talked about yesterday, was sent up to the mountain to kill his son. God should be feared. You need to be aware of this fact and challenge that viewpoint. God was teaching him some kind of lesson that he needed to learn. Dad's going to have to tell the story in a way that makes it make more sense, because I can only remember that he had to go up there and he had a knife and he was just getting ready to stab the kid on the altar. And God said, hey, man, you don't have to do that. And so the question is, did a loving God create you, or did your ego create a fearful God? So, Dad, what was it? What was he thinking? What did his ego trick him into doing that put him in this position? It seems ridiculous.
It's a very good question, Lee. And there is an answer. Here's my answer. The You mentioned a little bit earlier, and you read in Tom's reading that God is holographic, and unlike a picture, if you cut a picture in half, you have two halves of a picture, which are not like each other. But God can be understood more from a holographic point of view. This holographic idea is the real crazy thing to our minds. Any idea in and of itself is holographic. Any idea. How do you cut an idea in half? You can say, well, one part is positive, one part is negative, but that doesn't, neither of those resembles what the idea is to start with. An idea is simply an idea.
In fact,
And if
if you have positive and negative, the only way that you can recognize them as positive as negative is if they are one.
Correct. And what happens is, in our minds, we think that if you, well, let me say it differently. Half of an idea, I wrote this down. Oh, okay. Here's what I'm trying to say. We are trained, our mind has been trained to not think holographically. It has been trained to think dimensionally. Everything has a dimension. Everything has a cost. Everything is either more or less than something else. Something is valued more or less than something else. These are all dimensions. It's the way we are trained to think as human beings. I own half this land. No, I own 1/3 of it, and you own 2/3. And all of these dimensions are meaningless to a pure idea. And so even life and death are simply dimensional. It's a dimensional way of thinking. We have to think of, if there's a beginning, oh, well, there has to be an end. And none of that is true when you are in what I call the fifth dimension, which is non-dimensional. It's getting away from the whole notion of dimensional. God knew what he was doing. He was introducing Abraham to an idea of faith, which transcends any notion of dimensionality. Even if he stabbed his son, all of that would not have changed the the purpose and the idea of all of it, which was that God is love and he created us as love, and that idea will never end. How does that work? That works when we get away from the whole idea that we are bodies. We're not our body. We are an idea. We are God's idea of all of these things, and therefore we are love and we are light. So that's my answer. It is not in any of the Jewish. They have lots of ways of explaining that. None that matches what I'm saying, but that's the way I think, and that's the way I think. And
Good
there
enough
you
for
have
me,
it.
man. Thanks, Papa. Appreciate it.
In fact,
Can I
I
add something as well?
yeah,
everybody definitely can add something. I turned the hand raising off and back on because there was a glitch there. So if anybody else wants to share, feel free to raise your hand. It's 7:03. We're off to the races. So everybody have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll reset the room about every 30 minutes and then let everybody else speak. Have a great one.
go ahead, Steph.
I just wanted to touch on what Bob was just saying before the question, before we go back to the question. But um, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's going to make sense. But Bob, I'm going to say something to you. What you just said to me translates as how I see the teaching of when God says something, it appears fake at first. And there's been so many times in my life, and this is another note. You gave me the words to say it. Um, I don't understand why we say that God is all of these things. So, for example, I wrote down, we're putting dimensional attributes to holographic energy. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, I was always like, how can God be
Yes, it does.
forgiving? How can God be forgiving if, like we talked about the other day, he's not forgiving because he doesn't have to forgive? For me, he is just love. That's it. He can't be anything else. So in religion, when he's like, he is mad or he is this or he is upset at you, he isn't any of those things, because we're then attaching attributes of this dimension to something of a different dimension. Does that make sense?
Sure, but we need to get away from the whole notion of dimensionality. It's not even a word. I made up the word just now. I don't think there's a real word, but the idea that things can be counted or divided or multiplied, all of those things are. I mean, if someone says to me, "I'm wealthy," what does that mean? To certain people, it means he's
Right.
got $100 gazillion. To somebody else, it means he can pay the bills this week. It's all irrelevant. The real idea of dimensionality, of cutting things in half or doubling them up, all of that kind of stuff, it's all silly, because God is just one thing, and it is a huge idea. It's the only way I know to say that it's a non-holographic idea, and it
You
cannot.
said it.
Yeah, it can't be
Yeah,
divided.
that's perfect.
So we're stuck in our brains. We're stuck having to use these words. They're limited in what they can do to transfer the information. But the
I
whole
wouldn't say the
idea
word
is with
stuck.
this.
I wouldn't say the word stuck. We're
Okay,
not stuck
then
here. We're
we are
experiencing ourselves.
right this second. I'm using some words to try and describe something that's much bigger than the words I have to use to describe it. So we use these metaphors. We use light, sharing light with light, ideas never dissipating, because when we share ideas, they don't dissipate. There's just nothing we can point to really in this world that encompasses what an omnipotent being would be. And so we just do the best we can. And we get a really good job here in this clubhouse room sharing it. I mean, from from my perspective, I really feel like I'm getting my money's worth here.
Thank you, Tom. You're far away from the mic. I don't know what happened with. Yeah, it's too far away. Too far away. Why don't you
Tom,
try
you've
to?
changed over from speakerphone mode into the kind of headset mode. So look for a little speaker around in your app. I wish I had an Android and could help you.
Meanwhile, he does that. Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so I have been having this kind of interaction with contents about Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene in this week, and now I get why. Uh, I have been really like deeply embracing the idea that Jesus was always putting Mary as an example, not because she was special, but Mary Magdalene, not because she was special, but because she was his other one. I mean, he already see himself as holy, whole, and complete, and he could find her in that kind same place in his mind, in her mind. Sorry. So he chose her to be his partner. And there's a lot of resources that are showing us that the story that the Bible have about Mary Magdalene is not true. And in fact, she was a really wealthy woman that was raised with high education, and she helped a lot of girls in her surroundings to get out of prostitution in order to save their lives. And that's why that was one of the reasons why she was called a prostitute or whatever. It was because she had a house full of girls that were being educated by her in order to give them another chance in life. And I have been discovering all of these books and things about Virgin Mary as well. I was like in a soul path as I read recently, that took her in an evolution where she got to be the mother of Jesus, and she reunited with him at the end of her days. And the apostles, the apostles were around her in her moment, in her dying bed moment. I don't know how to say but what I'm going to say, this is just that I found this part of the Gospel of Mary so great and like appropriate for this lesson today, because I, as a woman, have been dealing with all my life this relationship, this special relationship with my significant others that are completely my opposite. I'm meaning men. My entire life has been discovering that the man that I have in front of me is not something different from me. But as he is a man, or they are men, I saw them always so far from myself that I could never like see them equal. So my entire experience with my opposites has been really like rejecting them for some reason, because I was, of course, rejecting my relationship with the source, and the source has no opposites. So in my entire life, it seems like my journey has been taking me to this realization that even if I have someone in front of me that it's completely my opposite, it's myself as well. It's me. So when Jesus reaches this kind of enlightenment, Mary Magdalene was in the same position, but doing all this kind of teachings to the female part. So what the entire history has been teaching us is that the female part should be like undermined. And therefore, we as women are the ones that are waking up. And this makes total sense because, for example, in our rooms, and the room that I have been looking in Clubhouse, that it's from Matthew and Amy and the other girls, are full of girls. I mean, the spiritual community, it seems to be more with women than with men, not because men are enlightened or anything. It's just that I recognize myself. I'm not talking for everybody, but I'm recognizing myself recently being so asleep that I was creating this kind of rejection towards men. And of course, that is a narcissistic point of view that needed to be healed in order for redo my entire life experience. So I wanted to bring this into the conversation because if love created me like itself, and itself doesn't have opposites, I need to stop seeing men as the abusers or whatever, because it's just my resistance to see them as me. And there's a part of the Gospel of Mary that I want to read. It's really short, but I think it will give us an example of what I'm saying. So in this Gnostic Gospel, Mary Magdalene appears as a disciple, singled out by Jesus for special teachings. In this excerpt, the other disciples are discouraged and grieving Jesus' death. Mary stands up and attempts to comfort them, reminding them that Jesus' presence remains with them. Peter asks her to tell them the words of Jesus, which she remembers. To his surprise, she does not reminisce about past conversation with Jesus, but claims that Jesus spoke to her that very day in a vision. But they were grieved. They wept greatly, saying, "How shall we go to the Gentiles and preach the gospel of the kingdom of the Son of Man? If they did not spare him, how will they spare us?" Then Mary stood up, greeted them all, and said to her brethren, sorry, my English is not so good. "Do not weep and do not grieve, nor be irresolute, for his grace will be entirely with you and will protect you. But rather, let us praise his greatness, for he has prepared us and made us into men." When Mary said this, she turned their hearts to the good, and they began to discuss the words of the Savior. Peter said to Mary, "Sister, we know that the Savior loved you more than the rest of women. Tell us the words of the Savior which you remember, which you know, but we don't, nor have we heard them." Mary answered and said, "What is hidden from you, I will proclaim to you." And she began to speak to them these words. She said, I saw the Lord in a vision, and I said to him, "Lord, I saw you today in a vision." He answered and said to me, "Blessed are you that you did not waver at the sight of me. For where the mind is, there is the treasure." I said to him, Lord, how does the who sees, no, Lord, how does Lord, how does he who sees the vision see it through the soul or through the spirit? The Savior answered and said, "He does not see through the soul nor through the spirit, but the mind which is between the two. That is what sees the vision." And that's the part of the Gospel of Mary that gets broken because the midsection of the original text is missing. So I wanted to say that is because we need to really, 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 as women, start to do our job in the mind, to stop seeing ourselves apart from men. Men are us. They are the part of ourselves that needs to be recognized in order for us to experience oneness in a wider range in our physical experience. Because yes, as Bob was saying, we are some kind of focus on our attention in dimensions, and that's the reason that gave us like this kind of resistance, because our mind is focusing on dimension and not in the spirit. In the fifth dimension, you have been overcoming like the dimensions and the time and the dimension of time. So when you go to the fifth dimension, where all is like a thought, it's where it all starts to get reversed and really like overcome, if you want to see it like that. So I wanted to share that because I'm really now understanding why I found Lee in my life, and why we have so many synchronicities. This part of my process with Lee, no, I haven't been able to share it with all of you because, well, there's so many things around this relationship that are so like deep that I don't have any time to that much time to express it all. But Leah and I have similarities that are really like, why? It's like, for me it's amazing. We have so much differences, but we are so alike, and we see each other so uh, so sometimes so it's just that there's so many words right now in my mind. What I'm trying to say here is just that as long as we as women keep seeing men like something apart from us, we will continue to have conflicts, and we need to see ourselves. We are the ones that are awakening right now. Jesus have already done its job to get enlightened, and he has given us a good example on how to do that in different perspectives, and he even gave us this book. And now we as women, we need to realize that we are Jesus as well. We can be Jesus as well. And that's part of the understanding of love created me like itself.
I love that.
That's what I wanted to say.
I love that. I love that. That's a wonderful kind of. We were talking about that last night. We were thinking. I was thinking about the yin yang kind of feeling of balance and making a whole. Two sides of the coin is another really good metaphor for this. You kissed in the world we're in. I'm in a male body. No, my sex is a male. I choose my gender to be male too. Lucky me, that makes it easy on me. But I can't fully play the part of a woman, but I can absolutely accept the part of me that uh, reflects the womanness in others, and as much as I can be a balanced person, I want to be. I'm a Libra, you know, that scales. So my whole life I've been looking for a partner that would help balance out the parts of me that don't just naturally aren't as proficient as some things as some other people are. And I have some things that I'm really proficient at that I can balance out for others if that's an area that they don't feel strong in. And at a basic level, all I can really do in life is show up. And I have showed up for a lot of women. I I spent a lot of time investing energy and love and doing everything I could to do the right thing. It's hard to even know what the right thing is most of the time. Not most of the time. Sometimes. Actually, a lot less. A lot less. This course has
Could
definitely helped a great deal. Go ahead, Tom.
could yeah, I just wanted to get back to, the earlier discussion that was talking about this Abraham Isaac story. And my understanding of the story, just briefly, was that God told Abraham, "We want you to go and make a sacrifice, climb up some mountain and kill your son and sacrifice your son Isaac uh, for me to show me that you love me." And they trotted up there, and Abraham was, really worried about this thing. He didn't want to kill his son, but he didn't want to disobey God. Got up there and he built the fire and everything. And Isaac's asking him, "Hey, we didn't bring any sacrifice. What's going to happen?" And Abraham says, "Well, God's going to provide." But eventually he tossed Isaac up there, and he was going to kill him. And then God said, "Oh, okay, I was just testing you, and you don't have to do that." And well, Abraham says, "Well, we've got to sacrifice something." And up and lo and behold, a ram appeared, and he killed that. Uh, Now, Bob said that there was some interpretations, many interpretations of that story, and I could give you one that perhaps would be a little bit different, but. Uh, in regards to that story, if you just take it at face, tell me how you could conclude that God is only love. certainly sounds like uh, they've got a notion of a God that's revengeful, requiring some type of sacrifice, wants to test his subjects to make sure that they obey him, and that uh, you need to fear somebody. I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley. And I think that now we could go in and discuss that idea of if the religion itself got the idea of God correct, or if it misunderstood and was creating a God of revenge. I mean, Jesus said that the Old Testament, they brought the new one out because the old one didn't get everything right. But what the lesson is saying is that our ego, our belief in separation, we created a fearful God. We can go to the Garden of Eden story and talk about that a little bit. I don't want to do that right now. I've discussed it elsewhere, but that is a sends us on a wrong path. Whenever we said that we sinned and thought it was a sin, we went off and started to create a God of uh, judgment. And the Garden of Eden story, God didn't say that we couldn't eat the fruit. He said, you can eat any of the fruit of the trees out there, but I wouldn't advise you to eat the tree from the knowledge of good and evil, because if you eat the tree and you take that in and you take that as part of yourself, you'll think that you now have something to judge, and you'll start judging. So whenever we start judging, we start making uh, separation real. We start seeing good and bad. We start realizing that there's not only love, but that's kind of beyond this. But this notion, what the course is saying, I think, if you read this lesson, is we got it. Our ego got it wrong. That our religious books, and I don't know why we want, and it seems like Course in Miracles. I don't know why. I guess because perhaps there's Jesus, and therefore we want to try and reconcile a bunch of Bible verses to try and jump through some hoops to make it sound compatible with what the Course is saying. The Course is saying God is only love, period. There's no such thing as a revengeful God. If you believe in a revengeful God, you're following the God of the ego, and you're going to be screwed up. You need to correct that whole notion, because as soon as you make that uh, false premise that God judges you or that you're a sinner, you're in trouble, because your ego then is going to create a God of fear and of judgment, because that's what it is. And the Course is saying, you know, that's we can look at all these Bible references and stuff like that and try and convert them somehow so that they make sense. But the Course in Miracles can stand alone. It says we got it wrong. God is not a God of judgment. God is not a God to be feared. Get that right, and all these other problems of trying to uh, somehow twist around a story that seems like it's a God of fear. Just say that the story is a story based out of our ego and a belief that God could be a God that we had to fear. And the Course is saying, correct that, find the truth, and all the great religions all come back to their mystical traditions, and they all start saying the same thing. On a mystical level, they start saying God is only love, God is a oneness, you are part of that. All the great religions say that. The religions of the East and the West all come down to that thing. So to try and make the Western religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and layer on the religious notions that may or may not be corrected. Whenever the Course in Miracles speaks of the Bible, it's always correcting it. It's trying to say, hey, they got it wrong. They misinterpreted this. They screwed up again. Man screwed up, and he made a God of only love into a God of fear. And that's the mistake. Correct the mistake. And this is why, like, when I came across the Course in Miracles, Revelation, the mystical traditions had taught me that God was only love and that, we were one with that. But there wasn't anything on the intellectual level or on the spiritual knowing, unless I looked at the Eastern religions, that would explain how evil existed. When the Course in Miracles said, God didn't create this world, which is a world of perception, not reality, which means that it's our ego's uh, viewpoint of it, okay, which now creates into a fearful world and a hateful world, because that's where our ego is coming from, that idea of separation. And the Course in Miracles, I didn't create this world of perception. That's in your own mind. You did. Mass collective conscious did it. Uh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Okay. And whenever it said, we didn't sin, hey, we're, in the Course in Miracles, says we're kind of like the explorers of the world. We're astronauts going out there, individuated aspects of the one self, the abstract, going out and trying to learn demonstrations. And I think Stephanie or somebody said something, well, they don't see uh, love as being helpful and stuff. On an abstract level, it can't be, because there's only that oneness. So in order to, if I'm a individuated aspect and I want to be helpful, and there's only the whole, who am I to be helpful with? I can't. So we had to have this illusion of separation so that I could pretend that I could be helpful. And somehow, as someone said, we started to get different aspects of love that really wasn't necessary or required when there was just this oneness. But, I just get back to the lesson, and it's basically saying, did we create God in our egoic image, or did God create us as unconditional love in its image? And if we conclude that we didn't create God, this is the question kind of the authority problem little. Uh, our ego wants to create a God of fear and judgment. And God created us. We can't create, we can pretend God is a God to be feared, but that's only a pretense and that's not true. So we've got to get back to reality. Once you say God is only unconditional love, everything changes, because unconditional love just flows. And all that I can do is I can deny the flow and refuse to accept it, but it still flows. And all that I have to do is open my arm. And when I do that, it's there. It's me. I accept God's love. That's all. And so uh, the Course, I think, is very clear. We got it wrong. Our Western religions maybe emphasize fear. And of course, religion likes fear because that's an instrument, especially when you talk about the churches and stuff like that. Fear is a good instrument to control you. If they can send you to hell, or if they can say you're a sinner, and we hold the keys for redemption. You have to, give us some money or bless us or whatever you have to do. That gives them power, but it doesn't. It's not spirituality. It's religion, and there's a difference between spirituality and religion. You get to the mystical traditions, get to the spiritual tradition. God is only love. That's the one thing we need to correct. And when we correct that misunderstanding, that misperception, fear now disappears or dissipates, because now we're starting with the truth instead of starting with a false assumption. Once you get that first premise wrong, you're screwed. Okay. You have to go back and correct and challenge the first premise, which is God. There's separation. God judges and found us wanting, or somehow we were able to offend God because he's so petty and he's so, he's just like us on an ego level. That's the ego's creation of a God. Thank you.
If you if you go to mathematics, it's an interesting thing. If you take the number one and divide by zero, you know what you get? Undefined. There is no number. But if you take zero and divide it by one, you still you get zero. Zero in this case simply means stop dimensioning everything. It's useless. It's just what Tom is saying. It's useless. Every time, if you have a tribal chief and he's got, 100 warriors, and another tribal chief has 150 warriors, he thinks he's going to win because he's got more. Well, more or less often does, but doesn't have to. If the other one's smarter, twice as smart, if you want to use the same kind of numericals, it's going to be a tie. But it's all silly. And people who think that they have that much more money than someone else, that makes them better, is something silly. When you put all of this together, I like the way Adriana told her story because it was human. It's something that we can really utilize, this understanding of God, that it needs to not be split. It's just as hard, Adriana, for a man to admit his femininity. In fact, it's harder. But harder, less hard, those are all meaningless terms, also. We both have a human, it's easy to say, we have a human sensibility, we have a feminine sensibility, we have a masculine sensibility. We all do. What did the men do? The men said, we're stronger. And they were able to prove it because the body of the man tended to be. The whole idea of defining us by our body is stupid, because what do? You want to split the body in half? None of these things, splitting, multiplying, dividing, all of mathematics becomes zero when it all is put together. It's all zero. It's something that is undefined. And it's only then when we see the magical, the mysterious, and the truly miraculous, because that's where we're trying to get to. If we're counting up every number, if we're splitting hairs, how do you split a hair? How many angels can dance on the point of a needle? All of these kinds of things lead us into the other kind of thinking, where real spiritual thinking resides. And we can all get there. It's just we didn't know that it's that simple. We have to complicate things. I'm sure others have some similar types of experiences and definitions. So let's see if we can open up the floor and get some other people.
Okay, meanwhile, if anybody has something to share, I will have to say that I'm glad you mentioned that about the zero, because at the beginning of my journey with the Course in Miracles, I really could understand the zero and the number that has no end, because it represents the circle. It's just that for me, the duality, symbolically, in mathematics, it's zero, but it's not because it is a zero, it's just because it is a circle, and you can see it like a zero or as a pi. In either way, you will have this kind of nonsense
That
that you're
that
got.
number,
Yeah,
that
that.
specific number is one of the ones we call an irrational number. Something that isn't a whole number, we call an irrational number, especially something as important as pi. I mean,
Yeah.
what could be more important? We are coming up to Pi Day, by the way. It's one of my favorite days of the year. March 14th,
Okay.
3.14.
No, I don't get it. I don't know what it is.
3.14
Yeah.
next
Okay.
week, March
Ah.
14th, is the
Okay.
start of pi.
Okay. Yeah.
3.1445. All right.
Okay.
So the Pi Day, there's lots of great jokes about that. It's a great pun day. There's a lot of good pun days in March alone. Today we've got two March 4ths together, if you want to think of March 8th that way. We
Okay.
can march forth towards the future. All right. These are really dumb jokes, you
Yeah.
guys. Sorry.
Well,
Uh, it's
love is
it's a
fun.
it sure is. It sure is. Um, I have never kicked somebody out of one of these rooms before. It's a first for me, but Abdul
Oh,
started sending me all kinds. He
you kick
started
him
sending me
out?
all he
Oh, I
started
thought
sending
he
me all
lived.
kinds of messages. So it's okay. It's the good news is they make these rooms to keep safe spaces for the people that we care about. So I want everybody in here to be comfortable. If somebody can stay on topic, they're definitely welcome, without a shadow of a doubt. So anybody is welcome that can come in and talk on topic, even if they can't talk very well. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're going to come in and be harassing, that's something else. Anyway, doing these rooms for more than a year, that's the first person I've ever kicked out. And it was very easy. Didn't make it hard at all.
Good morning,
So,
Ariana. Hey, Divine, sorry.
hey, welcome back. How are you today?
Hi, I'm well. Happy Women's Day to everybody.
Is today
It's
Women's Day
today?
Yeah.
proper?
And me
I
to
thought it was the
everybody
whole
because
month.
we were
That
talking
is
about
so.
feminine energy and masculine
Yeah,
energy, right?
it's
Today
today.
too.
It's
Today too.
today.
We were talking about.
Ah, that's so
Yeah,
cool to know.
you guys
That's why
get to
I was.
celebrate.
Yeah.
I think we're doing the whole month of March here in America. That's kind of what I've seen. It's we're. I mean, today, yes, we can absolutely do it today, but I'm not going to stop today. I'm going to keep going the whole month.
Yeah, no. What I'm talking about is not celebrating the women in your life, but celebrate the feminine inside you. And so
The
be in touch
feminine, the
with
divine
your,
feminine.
be in touch with your feminine side today and see where it lead you. What can do to your relationship. For a man, should be
Sounds
a very
great.
good experiment.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Also,
What do you think?
I wanted to
What would be a
tell
good
you,
practice for me?
huh?
Go ahead. Tell me. Go tell me what you're tell me, and then I'll ask my question.
No, I was just going to say that since you mentioned mathematics and the pi number, I actually am a big fan of the Fibonacci sequence, which is
Oh,
parallel to the pi, and eventually
Exactly.
one day they're gonna meet. That's what they say. I don't know, but I heard rumor, in the hood that a Fibonacci sequence and pi are gonna meet at some point.
yeah. Fibonacci gives us that wonderful spiral. If you've that spiral inside of a pie, you can have this beautiful kind of spiral. My dad's an architect, and he can't hear this right now. But my brother Sean down on the bottom, we've been trying to design and create and 3D print this idea that he had for a chapel. Imagine a chapel that rises up in a mound, and the seats are in a spiral. So the spiral starts in the center,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes all the way around, and there's a chair on every part of the spiral. And so you've got uninterrupted views, and the spiral goes all the way up the side until you get to the top, and the dome kind of folds back in on itself. So there's a light that comes in from the center, and the light pours back in towards the center. And so
And
when you look within the
when are we
spiral,
going to be able to do it?
Sean's going to help me 3D design it, and we'll print one, and we can make it into a lamp or something. But the idea is, when you look within, you see the light, and if you're on the
Mm,
outside of the spiral and you look outside, you see the whole world outside, and it's just a kind of this great metaphor for how to turn within. And when you get up to the top of the mountain, you turn back within and you look within. And then there's this airport in Singapore that has a waterfall that comes in the center and it pours down the center. It's this like incredible feature.
It's like
Um,
the Klein bottle.
it is like the Klein bottle. It's very much like the Klein bottle. All of these things I think are wonderful, architectural ways of showing how God shows up in our lives. I'm
yeah.
really grateful to be here.
Yeah, that seems like a very awesome idea for any building actually, but a church specifically. Yeah.
George, are you awake? I would love to hear your thoughts around the part of the feminine, the divine feminine, because I haven't heard you about that part.
Oh, so funny you asked, because I was wondering if I can even possibly even try to tell my story. But my divine feminine actually has a name. Her name is Dara.
Is
And
your wife?
Wait, like
no,
Dora the Explorer?
Dara. And I found out, I was going to look it up before I even thought about telling this story. Maybe somebody could look up the meaning of the name Dora, but I actually met someone in person named Dora, and she told me what her name was, and it kind of finished my story off nicely, but I can't remember what she told me. But I was laying in bed, and this beautiful, I could just call it a
It
spirit.
means gift.
Gift? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So this beautiful spirit came toward me, and obviously, I mean, it was just the most beautiful face I've ever seen, and it was coming to kiss me. And I'm sitting there in complete like bliss, like, oh my God, she's gonna kiss me. And it just went into me like just this energy just went into me. And I was like, oh, I didn't get my kiss, but now I got this beautiful woman inside me. And and I just
But wait. This was a dream you had, or?
no, well, it was. I mean, I would say I was in the hypnagogic state, maybe, but I was awake.
Ah, you were like in theta brain waves.
Right. And ever since, I just call her Dara, and I have a name for my feminine energy.
Oh, that is so nice.
Yes, and that story became complete when, in a Course in Miracles meeting that I used to run in person, um, the daughter of one of the members came and visited, and her name was Dara, and she told me what the name Dara meant. Um, so obviously, the experience outweighs the story, but Divine Feminine Day.
What does it mean?
Hi, Dara.
What does Dora mean?
Yeah, what did she said? Because I
It's
found
not
it
Dora, it's
emoji.
Dara. Dara, Dara.
Hey, I'm in New England over here, so
Okay.
it's Dora the Explorer. I
No,
don't
but
know
it's
what you're
not
trying to say.
Dara.
Well,
Dara.
that's the way I spell it, but could be.
Dara. So tell me, what does Dara mean?
That's what I was. Well, somebody just, I think Adriana just looked it up,
Le-
and it means gift.
No, but it's because I was finding Dora, no Dara.
Ah.
Let me find Dara.
Well, someone could find Dara, but I don't know if it meant spiritual princess or something like that.
Well, I wasn't even listening
We
because
could definitely call you our spiritual princess if that's what
the
you want to be called.
the phone rang. I had to get off for a second, but it seems to me like it means adorable for short.
But it's just that it's
Dad, you're just making a
Dara.
pun.
I'm
A,
not.
oh, fine then. Adorable.
Hey, now you're talking like a Bostonian.
Am I?
Pocket car in the
Look
garage.
at this. Hey, the name Dara is a girl's name of Hebrew, Irish origin, meaning pearl of wisdom, gift, or oak tree.
Pearl of Wisdom's nice.
Yeah, and it's Hebrew.
That's
Yes.
nice.
So, and
But
I
you,
obviously thought I was making up that name but obviously not.
No way,
So
man.
yeah, so the pearl of
That's
wisdom
awesome.
entered my reality and is still there today. I kind of talk to her every once in a while.
Good for you. Way to own that, man. Happy Women's Day.
Is this Women's Day? Did I miss?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You were on a phone call, but we had a
Yeah.
big deal about it. Today's the
It's
day.
funny because it was all about Virgin Mary and all of this. I
I
didn't
know. This
realize
is it.
that.
I
Yeah.
didn't hear the end of
It
it. Oh
lined up
wow.
perfect.
Well, you will have to hear the replay then, Bob.
Yeah. Well, what are we
Yeah, go
supposed
do
to
your
do?
homework.
What
You
are we?
honor the women in your life. Honor your feminine energy.
And the
Focus
women, we
on your
need to
feminine
realize that
energy.
we can feel and
All
be
right.
Jesus Christ as well.
Yeah, women got to feel Jesus Christ.
Well, I think they do, and we do too. We all do. And the things that Jesus taught are much more in the feminine realm, aren't they? Sermon on the
Yeah.
Mount.
It really depends on how you want to define feminine and masculine or male and female energy. And I think there's great arguments on all different sides. But I think in a general, it's a blend. It's kind of in us. We're a rainbow of differences. But in reality, God is the white light that's the unified. So, I think we can split hairs any way you want. But the book helps us come back to the black and white. And in this specific case, I could read a little bit more of the lesson quickly through if that's helpful. We can get back to that kind of thing. If you haven't set your reminders, I keep forgetting to. So I was reminding myself, but maybe this is a good time to go turn on your ACIM remind or set yourself a reminder because this is a really simple, quick one today. Love created me like itself. Just to keep that one thought maybe on a post-it note in front of you so you see it every 10, 15 minutes. That's the goal. Love created me like itself. And getting back to that simple message of we can be God here on earth if we come back to the present and we ask for guidance. And so the practice of starting my day here in this room, Dad and I started in 2016, which is now 6 years ago. And it's traumatic reason to start, but I desperately needed something. I needed needed help, and I got it. Um, I read this book every day with my dad, um, every single day. We've been doing it a little bit more than 6 years. So I don't know. I used to keep count. I guess I could look it up again, but daily, slowly, I got in a lot more control of my thoughts than I was before. And instead of my thoughts running my life, Adriana, could you turn the music down a little bit for me? I let God kind of guide me, and it was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. I didn't realize how much of a control freak I was. Um, but I couldn't control those thoughts. It's like the more I tried, the harder it got. And eventually, through, I guess, learning patience, early on, patience has always been kind of the thing that I'm here. I have to show up and learn patience. And the more times I have to learn it, the more patient I have to be to wait for the chance to prove myself again. And so, last week, my ex-wife got a restraining order against me. It keeps me away from my kids. And here I am, lovely, showing up every day, reading this book, really trying hard, still screwing up in the real world sometimes, guys. Not perfect, far from perfect, but I try. I don't know if you guys remember last Thursday, Grace and Dean were here. He did not want to go to school. And every way I could ask him, his only answer was no. And by the end of the day, there's a policeman here with a piece of paper that says I'm not allowed to go within 50 yards of him. And this is far from the first restraining order that Trish has tried to get against me. And so far, all of them have, gone away with some fighting in the courts. But it takes a lot of energy to fight, and I don't want to fight. I'm tired of fighting. One of the things they teach us in the 12 steps is to cease fighting everything and everybody. And that was like early stuff I supposedly learned in life. But the lessons keep coming. And so I'm still here to learn, not taking it personally, even though it's really hard not to take personally. It just is the way it is. That's the way it goes sometimes with exes and with kids and with the legal system.
This world wants to divide us. The powers that control the types of governments, and we all know which ones they are, try to separate us. Separation is the main principle that we learn in Course in Miracles, and is the problem that it all started with, separating one from another. I can't think of any better example than a restraining order, for God's sakes. So that is employed by those who ultimately will lose the ability to separate, because God is here. God has our back. This book explains to everyone here how not to separate, how to put together what has been separated. And that's called love. And that's what we're talking about right here.
And
We
I
simply,
have to say something. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's just that I came right into my mind another kind of huge learning from this experience Lee's having. He just gave us the gift of this information to
okay,
all of us. I, as women, for example, I know that in my own experience, only up until now, like recently, I have been really like coming into terms with the idea of leaving my daughter with her father. We cannot solve problems in Lee's life. We are not here to save him from this situation because it's his journey. But if I take this gift of information now, today, with this entire conversation that we are having today, I do think that I could do something within myself in order to embrace this situation as something to learn and not to be sorry about. As we as women have been always being so like dismissed by men, we have been always trying to keep away the children from their father, but I'm not meaning father as their physical father, but from God. We have been, I'm not saying that all women are like this, I'm talking from my own experience. I was so afraid of move my life in this kind of path because it represents leaving my daughter with her father. Now looking back into my life, now I get to see that this is part of my healing process as well, because I'm now trusting that my daughter is super greatly take good care of if I leave her for a moment with, I mean, she deserves to have the experience with her father. My entire journey in life and my mother's experience in life, and probably all the women's behind her or in my family, have been dealing with this kind of same problem, that men were dangerous. And now I'm taking all of this special relationship into a holy one, because I'm now reversing the thoughts about my entire experience with men, because I'm now understanding that it was all my relationship with God. So we cannot solve this problem or anybody's issue that is being shared in this room, but we can take all those stories as some form of analogy of what is going on in your life. So I'm inviting all the women here. I don't know what they are their lives are, but just if today is Women's Day, if we have been speaking about Holy Mary and Virgin Mary, it's because the feminine side of us is trying to really give us some kind of message. So I'm just inviting everyone here. If we are hearing this sad story from Lee, how about if we just reflect in our lives how we have been trying to keep other people away from God? It doesn't matter if they are not children or your kids, it's just we as women. How often are we trying to keep everybody away from that holiness?
I think male side can do that too. I think we could
No,
absolutely
I
all
know.
take that one on, but I hear
No,
where you're coming from.
I know. I'm coming from my
Yeah.
learning with your speech because I feel that I should do something because I love you and I want to see you happy, but I cannot do anything. The only thing I can do is take your experience, the one that you're sharing with me, and try to figure out what those that mean for my own thought process. And now I'm realizing that, yeah, I have been keeping my daughter away from her father because I thought he was dangerous, and he's not. He's the most loving father that I've ever seen here around me. So I don't need to keep thinking like that because otherwise I will be keeping God away from her.
I know
And
it's
that's
going to
not
set
what
you
I,
free
yeah,
too. Yeah, I
exactly, exactly.
100% with you.
That's my practical example of this, you know?
Thank you.
May I say something?
Of course, yeah.
All right. So first, yes, Adriana, you're absolutely right. It's the situation is perfect as is, but in our human nature, of course, we feel like as he say the story, what is happening. I can feel the struggle, the pain inside, and so it's only normal to feeling like I want to do something to suit this man situation, right? Although we know it's perfect. And also you're right when you say that, in my understanding, of course, that when you say that if he shared this story here now with us, it's because this is for us to see. Now he's mirroring somewhat, he is mirroring us. And also all the feedback he has for his ex-wife also is mirroring him. So
Exactly.
what happened to I'm going to share something that happened to me that lead me to an understanding and therefore peace. I was consuming myself in a toxic relationship, and towards the end of this relationship I started learning, studying and everything. I was like, this is not normal. Like, this is not normal. This And so I start learning stuff, and I realized that most likely this guy has a situation in which he suffered from narcissistic personality disorder. Not like, oh, he's a narcissist. I'm talking about, really, he's not diagnosed, but that's what it is. And of course I had to bring this back into myself. Like, okay, if I am so intimate with someone with such personality situation, I I have to look within me, because it's so intimate, the relationship, that it has to be something really close to me. And so I took all the words that I use describing him, or our relationship, like, I'm always last, I never first place. He would, it's like he doesn't value my time, he has no respect for me, all these things.
I know these things.
All these things was exactly, word by word, the way I could describe at the time my relationship with myself. I was always putting myself last. There was always someone that was more important than me. Like, I had integrity with everybody but myself. It was like everything that was about this man that I didn't like, about not even about the man, about the relationship that I had with him, the way it was exactly. And that was the moment in which I was like, it was also the time in which I was approaching the study of, it was a couple of years ago, approaching the study of ACAM. So it kind of make it easier for me to see this. And from the day on, everything changes, including my relationship with him, where we are not lovers anymore. And most likely, I don't see this happening again in our future, although I love him dearly. But after, it was like there was some time in which, we brew, we understand, but now we are like friends. And I am well aware that he still has the same personality disorder. It just doesn't affect me anymore. So I guess, somewhat I feel like I have restored somewhat the relationship that I have with myself. And I can tell, I know I feel much better with myself now. I don't put myself last. I give myself importance. I have integrity towards myself.
There's
And I
definitely
don't.
something about if you've attracted a narcissist, there's some stuff right along those lines I know that I've been working on. So I really do get it.
Okay. And another thing is, when I divorced my husband, and it was totally on my part. I was the one who made the decision. I don't know what the situation between you and your wife, but I was the one that made the decision. And he was really pissed. Like, he didn't like the idea. So I let him, be pissed for a few months. And then one day I just sank into my heart, and I went and I talked to him, and I said, listen, if you want, you can not be my friend, you can hate me, you can do whatever you want, because this is your part of the street. As far as am I concerned, you're always welcome. You are the father of my kids. Whatever happened to you, it will reflect on my children's life. So I only want you to thrive and to do good. And if you want to be my friend, this door is open. If you don't want to, it's still fine. But I want you to know that I do want to be your friend, and I do want us to grow our kids together still, even if we're not together. So after reflecting a little bit, he decided that he did want to be my friend. And we've been friends for like the past, I don't know, 23 years. So
Well,
there
that is
is
a very
there
good
is a way.
example of
Like,
what I'm trying to do with my ex-husband. That's so
yeah,
good to hear.
it's not easy the first, and there's a lot of ego even just to go into, because there was a reason why I divorced him, right? It was like I ran out of love, the one that was special love ran out, but also based on some action that are normally in Italian culture. But I live in United States, so for me, as a woman, I don't have a duty to my husband, if you know what I mean. That's not a duty. That's something that we both enjoy if we want to do it, not a duty. So when it becomes a duty, then I'm like, no, dude, this is not happening. Sorry. You go your way, I go
My
my
God,
way.
I'm hearing myself in you.
Boy, does Adriana know what you're talking about. Boy, oh.
Exactly. No, I mean, I think that unfortunately, it's a lot of women that knows what I'm talking about, but it's because of like the culture that sometimes it cannot teach the wrong things to the people. Well, not the wrong things, but the things that are not working for the relationship, really, because that's something that is not working for the
I
relationship.
think what you're saying is that
You know?
patriarchal trait does not serve our society very well, and I would completely agree with you. Not a
Yeah.
helpful thing. I've never been that way, but even in spite of that, there's other things that guys can do that can piss you off enough to make it so that it's just frustrating to live with us. I really get it, and vice versa. So I'm definitely was ready to show up as a friend. The divorce was, she thought I cheated on her with a guy, and thought I was gay, and the whole summer teased me about being gay, and it drove me nuts. And by the end, we had a fight, and in that fight, I lost my temper, and
Yeah.
she had me arrested, and there was a restraining order for years, and I learned how to live with a restraining order and still be able to see my kids, and it's
Mhm.
been a real growth opportunity.
Yeah. No, I bet. But there is like, I don't know. I still believe that nothing is lost until person is
Mm,
alive.
yeah,
You
yep,
know, it's like there's a way. It's just that you work on you, like as you are doing. I can tell. You know, you are working on you,
that's why I'm here.
and Gandhi was absolutely right when he says, "Be the change you want to see in the world, because it is your world,
It
and it
sure
will change according to how you change or how I change." You know, it's like, you know what I mean.
I'm here every morning at 6:30 reading these
Yeah.
lessons. I promise you. I know I know what you mean.
I
I'm
I
I
trying
believe you. I believe. I just wish
to put
that,
it out there as
you
much as
know.
I could.
Yeah.
I
Don't know.
I also feel like it helps, and what else can I do? I am absolutely putting my money where my mouth is. I'm doing this as good as I can. I know I'm the best dad I can be. I'm going to keep being the best dad I can be. I'm not going to give up. But
Yeah.
that doesn't make it any easier figuring out how to fight your ex to get to see him and then not mess up when you see him. I did everything I could think of to help Dean go to school, and sometimes the my best possible reactions still can scare the hell out of an 8-year-old. No matter
Mm.
no matter how good I try to be, man, it's still really hard to get it right every single time for every second of the day. Whenever you're with your kids, if you're a single parent, it's hard at a whole nother level. And I still have
there are
not figured out how to be completely successful at. So,
well, Lee, it's not
oh
that
hi, Dad.
you're not successful, it's that you can't see the bigger picture in which you are being successful. The truth
Exactly.
is, and
Thank
it's
God.
very clear to us to we who know Dean, that he's pretty much addicted to playing games on his telephone. And if he doesn't get to do that, he gets very angry and he doesn't want to listen to anyone. We don't need to go into this. I think it's very clear that your idea of success is only limited here because you don't see the bigger picture that you are. And you do know this. This is not even news to you, what I'm saying now. He did need that. He does need that. You were successful in separating him at that time from the thing to which he was addicted. You did the masterly father thing. It cost you, but it only cost you in the way we look at life, not in the way we look at love and God and what we're learning in this class. Now, I want to also just say that the whole idea of being attracted to narcissists or so on, what is that? Now, don't answer. Let me try and answer my way first. Tom, like spiritually speaking, in general, likes attract like, as in magnets and so on. But it seems to me that I tend to be much more codependent when I'm being not in my best right mind, when I'm with someone who tends to be extremely narcissistic. They fit hand in glove. They fit because they're opposites, and each one nurtures the other's addiction. The other's problem is solved by having someone who is more sick on the other side of it. So you still have two sides of a coin. So adding all of these different terms together is just another way of dimensioning, of separating people with different names. I don't want to be with him. He's too narcissistic. Well, you're too codependent. Well, how much are you codependent? Well, I'm only 25% and they're 60%. All of that stuff is nonsense. This
In
lesson
fact,
today has
everybody's
the answer.
narcissistic when it's out of God. I mean, I really didn't see myself as a narcissistic, and I called my husband as well a narcissistic. And when the course came into my life, I truly understood that the concept of narcissism, it comes from the ego concept. So of
Exactly.
course, narcissism, it's being out of God's mind. So of course, we have been all narcissistic because we
Sure.
have forgotten our true self. That's why there's a good when you realize that everything is supported by God and that has an entire whole picture that you cannot see because you're playing a role in this full picture that only God knows, then you become again probably narcissistic, but in a good way. It's funny. I'm trying to say here like you're narcissistic when you're out of God's mind, but when you truly understand that you're one, you became again a little bit egocentric, but in a good way, because then you realize that every conflict that you have outside of you, it is you. So it's reversing the thoughts of on narcissism being this egoic self and turning like really like a holy narcissism, because then you take responsibility for everything that is in front of you in some form, in some level, to reinforce and build the muscle on the idea that you are one with God and that everything that is happening right now, even it is hurtful and you don't understand it and you don't know how to go through it, you will always have this support and system within yourself that tells you it doesn't matter, everything will be okay. I will not get attached to these ideas of victimism or angry or whatever, because I know this is not the real self, because I know this is just a learning process. And then you really start to open your mind to let the Holy Spirit come with answers and solutions and different kind of miracles in your life. So it's amazing that you put again the narcissist concept on the table, because for me now narcissism is just being out of God's mind.
And let me take it a step further to show how ridiculous it is to try that. Because if you think about it, God is also not also, but totally narcissistic from the point of view of anyone who is not God, which means all of us. You could think about it. He is the one. He is in charge. And it's people who try and be like God who are called narcissists. So all of these words define things that are not as important as knowing that there is one total God that loves everything it created like itself, which is totally love. And even in this lesson, we're supposed to say, if you don't want to use love, there are several other words, because it's all God and everything else is nothing. Everything else is zero. As soon as you start to define it, then you're dimensioning it. You want to measure it. How much of this is God? How much is not? No, we need to simply be able to trust totally that God is in charge of this. And the more we train ourselves to think that way, the more God is able to get through. Not that he's not able, and he does overtake the ego when necessary. The Holy Spirit will step in if necessary. Most of the time, it's not. And he gently allows you to work around it. But what are you working around? Zero. There's nothing there to really worry about. That's what we have to remember. The only thing there is love. And even Adriana correctly said just a moment ago, something, 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 and she said, it doesn't matter. Take that phrase. What do the blacks correctly say? Black lives matter. Sure. White lives matter too. Feminine lives matter. And anyone could get up and scream that they matter. We all matter. It's only when we try and divide ourselves and separate ourselves that we worry that someone else doesn't think our opinions matter. Male versus female, it happens all the time. It just happened with Lee. Massachusetts, as a body of laws, tends to side with women in general. Lee, you're talking, but you're in mute.
Yes, because if I unmute myself, I'll complain too loud. Just you kind of maybe just wrap it up.
No, he's totally on
I
point.
know.
He's
Yes,
totally on point.
that's why I'm on mute again.
Thank God you were on mute. And I must say as well that only in the balance of the polarities is where you get to find the oneness. So you will not be able to embrace everything unless you just put your mind in balance between the opposites. So if we are having this kind of special relationship with anybody, you just need to figure out the way to see it as yourself. Treat it or him or she or whatever like yourself. So in
Then you
that
can
way,
transform it into a holy relationship
exactly.
without their participation even. This is this is the way you can transform any relationship, any one-sided relationship like I'm stuck with. Whether or
Amen.
not they're complicit in forgiveness or not, I can choose to be forgiving and find the pathway to peace with or without them. So that's my practice today.
Um, may I say something else? I have learned also that sometimes we hold the people hostage in our mind in who we think they are, and we keep them there forever with that idea this person is like this, and we do not give them any chance to show up differently because we have them hostage in that kind of person in our mind.
Absolutely agree.
So sometimes, if just so that it's like it's think better the projection made perception, which is like my favorite things in the world. um if you release the hostage, if you release the preconcept that you have of the person, and you give the person the chance to also grow and to develop and to like remove what is your idea of what this person is, and just give her the chance to show up differently. That's my invitation.
That's
And
a
I want to say
beautiful.
something that Bob says before,
Wait,
and he says,
I'll let you. Let me just for your invitation. I just
yeah,
want you to know,
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
6 years in, I'm still giving her the opportunity. 6 years in, I'm still discovering where maybe healthy boundaries might lie and where to set them. And when I try and set healthy boundaries, I get hit with a restraining order. So I'm still trying to figure out the right way to do it. I am far from perfect, but even being as cautious as I am, I still mess up. I'm still trying. I'm still human, but I definitely hear where you're coming from, and I'm trying not to hold her in a place where that's going to trap her. I don't want to keep her in a prison any more than I want to be in a prison. So I hear
But
you. And then
that part is maybe not because you need to find out the boundary itself. It's just that you need to be okay with this crazy boundary that you think is not healthy. You need to be
I'm
okay with
open
it.
to anything. I'm okay and open to anything today. I really, other than saying, I don't know how else to be more open to whatever the opportunity is to heal this situation,
I
whatever it
know,
takes to be good for my kids.
I know how
I'm
to make this easier for you.
I can say this. When we use the word unconditionally, then we get into the fifth dimension or non dimension. Unconditionally means just that. We are to love unconditionally as best we can. That keeps us and everyone else in the safest place that we're capable of putting ourselves and them. And that is really the truth.
Mm.
We need to be able to love unconditionally. That's where we're heading, folks. I really believe that. Everything else that we say, this matters, that matters, anything, as soon as we start to individuate things, then we get away from unconditional love. I think that's what my message is going to be for today. And I never saw it quite as clearly as I do now. That unconditionally, that's where we can be closer to God than any other way. And it's what Abraham learned. It's what we learn. It's what this lesson teaches us. So that's where I'm at today. And I do need to be leaving in a few minutes. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Lee, to maybe read the lesson again, and we'll see it with different eyes.
I'd be happy to do that, Dad. No problem at all. All right. Today's workbook lesson 67. Love created me like itself. Love created me like itself. Today's idea is a complete and accurate statement of what you are. This is why you are the light of the world. This is why God appointed you as the Savior of the world. This is why the Son of God looks to you for his salvation. He is saved by what you are. We will make every effort today to reach this truth about you and to realize it fully, if only for a moment, that it's the truth. In the longer practice period for today, we'll think about your reality and its wholly unchanged nature. Begin by repeating this truth: love created me like itself. Then spend a few minutes adding in some relevant thoughts, like holiness created me holy, kindness created me kind, helpfulness created me helpful, perfection created me perfect. Any attribute in accordance with God as God is, God as love, as light, as knowledge. Any attribute in accordance with God is appropriate. We're trying today to undo your definition of God and replace it with God's own definition of God. It comes through the Holy Spirit to you directly. My voice can only guide you back inside to the light that's inside you to find this. So today we're trying to undo your definition of God, replace it with what the Holy Spirit tells you God is. We are also trying to emphasize that you're a part of God's definition of himself. You are part of the oneness. After you've gone over several such related thoughts, try to let all thought drop away for a brief preparatory interval, and then try to reach past all your images and preconceptions about yourself to the truth in you. If love created you like itself, this self must be in you. And somewhere in your mind, it is there for you to find. you may find it necessary to repeat the idea from time to time to replace distracting thoughts. You may also find that this is not sufficient. You need to add other thoughts related to the truth about yourself. Yet perhaps you can succeed in going past that. And through the interval of thoughtlessness to the awareness of a blazing light in which you recognize yourself as love created you. Be confident. Be confident that you will do much today to bring that awareness nearer, whether you feel you have succeeded or not. Love created me like itself. It will be particularly helpful today to practice the idea for the day as often as you can. You need to hear the truth about yourself as frequently as possible because your mind is so preoccupied with false self-images. 4 or 5 times an hour, perhaps more. It would be most beneficial to remind yourself that love created you like itself. Hear the truth about yourself in this. Try to realize in the shorter practice periods, this is not your tiny, solitary voice that tells you this. This is the voice of God, reminding you of your Father and yourself. This is the voice of truth, replacing everything the ego tells you about yourself with the simple truth about the Son of God. You were created by love like itself. Today's thought, love created me like itself. Put it on a Post-it note. Keep it in front of yourself. I'll keep remembering it too. And if you need to come back, there's a link right here at the top, this purple link that goes across. It's already there. It links directly to the live session on YouTube and the live session at acourseinmiracles.live. And if my ex-wife is here listening, she can hear all of it and have all of it because it's the truth. I'm trying as hard as I can, and here's the evidence. So I love you all. I really appreciate you letting me create a space that is as safe as I decide to make it and is a great teaching opportunity for me to figure out how to be a better man and a better father and a better human being. So thank you all.
Thank you.
I love the way you read, Lee. It's just, it enables each of us, I think, and I know it's for me, to really take it in personally and take it in deeply. It's beautiful. Thank you.
And you're teaching me as well. You're teaching me how to be strong and how to be more more profound with my perception about um, the holy relationships. So thank you very much, Honey, for everything that you do. I really love you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye. Lee, are you gonna stay another minute?
Yep, no problem. I'm hanging out.
Okay. I want to share with you something that has been working for me in my relationship, especially when the relationship I see it as challenging and I'm in my human form, let's say, and I'm living in this illusionary reality, right? Catch people doing good. I try to lead my life by two principles. One, leave people and places better than you find them. Two, catch people doing good, because it's so easy for us to always see what they do that is wrong, that we most of the time overlook at the other things that they do that are actually the right thing. So I make a point in trying to find and look, and the more I look for the things they do right, the more right things they do, or things that are working for what I want to accomplish.
Absolutely. My expectations create all kinds of realities, and more of a chance of me seeing it. I'm with you 100%.
So this woman, she feed your kid every day. She love him. She take him to school. Like, look, try to just take away, like, put your sight, if you can, only on those things. Focus only on those things that she does that are admirable
Sure.
of her. And I think that if you give this a shot, you'll be very pleased with the results.
Remember, this is the woman I asked to marry me. This was
Yeah.
and I don't know if you caught this part of the story, but I I, I never had a problem on my side. I didn't break up with her. I didn't think that she cheated on me. I didn't give up, and I've never given up loving,
Okay.
coming back to love, for the whole 15 years of our relationship. I have continually come back to giving her another chance to grow and meet me where I'm at, giving another chance to grow and meet her wherever she's at. I bent over backwards 6 ways from Sunday, and I won't stop.
Yeah.
I will continue to love and figure out another way. I have turned another cheek in every way I could think to turn another cheek. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it doesn't. I'm trying as many ways as I can, and I am super grateful. I know Dean and Grace, they ate breakfast this morning. She didn't feed them. She drops them off at school and lets the school feed them, but that's fine too. They get food. I can be grateful for that. She does what she does, and I'm grateful for the wonderful things that she does. And I'd love the opportunity to be the father and make up stuff that maybe is more difficult for her, and also do the stuff that I'm really good at, no matter whether she's good at it or not. I'm here to show up to do the best I can today, and I definitely want to give her the opportunity to do the best she can as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not holding back. I'm not trying to limit her. I don't want to put her in a prison. I don't want to be the gatekeeper of that prison on the outside. So I'm ready to forgive and move on and be a partner. And I'm ready to be a co-parent if she doesn't want to be a partner. If however she wants to just define it, wonderful. I'm ready to come to the table and figure out just what can we do to take care of Grace and Dean. And at a
Right.
larger level, what can we do to make sure we're good parents that set good examples for these kids so that they can have good examples for relationships in the future, because this is not a good example for a relationship today, and we can do better. So I'm ready to do better, and I'll keep showing up. And I haven't been able to afford a lawyer for years, and I really can't afford one now, but I'm meeting with one tomorrow. And it's not so that I can go in to attack or even defend, but just so that I can go in and make absolutely certain that the truth is presented and that I don't screw up in trying to defend myself. It's hard to not take it personally,
Yeah,
and to
but
get
Lee,
caught up.
it will, because everything is perfect all the
I'm just
time.
saying I'm not going
You
to go
know?
and defend myself on this one. I've done it many years. This is 6, 7 years worth of legal battles. I've had 5 different lawyers. I've had lawyers that turned into judges. I've had lawyers that laid me off because I was too forgiving to her. My spiritual practice pissed a lot of my lawyers off. But
Yeah,
I'm absolutely showing up like you've seen me for the last 2 days, but I've been doing this for 6 years, and
I believe you. I
I've been
totally
doing it
believe
here
you.
on I've been doing it here on Clubhouse publicly for like the last year, and been videotaping it and saving it in a way that would make it easy in case anybody has a question. I got hundreds of hours of video of me showing up here, reading this book, and trying to figure out the way to move forward. Rarely talking this personally, this publicly, as I am with you right this minute. But I can go delete this one if I feel like it. You know, there's nothing. I don't have anything to fear anyway. It's there. All of this truth is the truth, and I would say it on the stand if I was supposed to. You know, I don't know how else to show up other
I
than.
wanna I wanna give you a little image that Alex gave me. Alex is the person that introduced me and keep me on the path of ACIM.
Okay.
And in a moment in which I was struggling myself with the situation, it doesn't matter what the situation is, it's the struggle that matter, right? The fact
Sure.
that you lose the peace, that's the thing. You know, it's, and my invitation, by the way, was not so much about her. I don't know her, and you know, but it's for you, for your own peace. It's for me, for my own peace, that I catch people doing good. It's not for them. It's
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely. No,
And
I was trying to say the same thing, but with the word forgiveness and a couple of other ways. But you're absolutely right. It's the first thing that leads me to peace too.
yes, exactly. So it's like what it counts, it all starts from you, right? So what it really matters is how you feel, how you see things. The rest you, it's like you have a side of the street, and that's the part that you keep clean, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And also, Alex gave me this beautiful analogy of an ocean, and you are a droplet. I am a droplet in the ocean.
Yeah,
Okay, and the ocean is going to land in Florida, because that's where the ocean is going. It's going to Florida, and me drop, I'm like, hell no,
yeah. I
I
don't
don't
want
want
to
to
go
go
to
to
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah,
I want to go to freaking
I'm up
Australia.
here in Massachusetts. I literally could throw a stone and get it in the Atlantic. But I hate this town. I really don't want to live here.
But what I mean is the
I know what
flow
you
of the
mean.
universe, the ocean will always be stronger than me. There
And
is no
we're all part of
fight.
the oneness of the water on Earth. 70% of this Earth is water. You know, I get it. That's it. Water is part of us in the same way that we use light as a metaphor. Water is a great metaphor.
Yes, yes. So as a droplet, I cannot oppose the ocean. If the ocean wants that I have this
Right.
struggle, because through this struggle I'm experiencing something that I've never experienced before, and my purpose is to experience, then I will go and land in the freaking Florida, even if I don't like it. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just what I like that
It's harder to
flow.
struggle against the ocean or to swim upstream than it is just to go with the flow. And I'm with you there too. Boy, it's
Like if things are going this way, if your relationship is not where you want it, if she's not there where you want her, it's like you wanted to go to Australia when the ocean is going to Florida.
oh divine, if you only knew. I mean, Adriana has a beautiful daughter. She's reading to Vera right this second on camera. They're getting ready for school, they're doing their hair.
Mm.
And
My daughter
Adriana
didn't want to go to school this morning, and she didn't go. By the
oh,
way,
she didn't go?
she's in
How,
the room
how
playing
old is
video
your daughter?
games. Yeah,
How old is your daughter?
14.
14. So Dean wanted to stay home and play video games too. And same kind of deal. And maybe the right choice could possibly have been to let him stay home from school. As a second grader, it seemed like not a great time to fold and to hold my cards and get him off to school. And I figured, boy, would I get in trouble if I didn't get him to school. Lo and behold, getting him to school is the thing that got me in trouble this time. So I just every minute I have an opportunity to see it with love.
Yeah.
I definitely could have done it differently. I'm always willing to try and be better. And this is just I'll take it as this opportunity. And if she wins and I'm not allowed to see my kids for a year or two or whatever, I can go live down in North Carolina. I can go live anywhere else, I'll go be helpful to the world and do my best to be helpful to my kids in the long run, no matter what. So either today or 5 years from now, they'll want to be with me again, and I'll be waiting. And I'll have open arms, just like my dad had open arms when he found his daughter this summer. It's
Yeah.
Just one of those crazy situations.
Yeah. And it's the Florida that you don't like as much as you like the Australia. Of course, it would be better to have like
I like New
a
Zealand.
wonderful
Colombia's
relationship and
beautiful.
stuff like that.
Well, I do. Have you seen Adriana?
I saw a picture of her.
All right, so Adriana, see, she sent a first message to me a day after my birthday, September 28th this year. She just found A Course in Miracles back in May. I've been studying this book for 20 years,
Yeah.
and I made a room, and something struck her about something I said one day. It struck a chord in her, and then she went and looked at the replay on the video camera, and one thing led to another. But that is a whole brand new love that is unlike anything I've ever had in my life. My mom told me that she loved me at the same level that Adriana tells me, but no other human has ever told me I love you as often as she has. And
Okay,
it's
this
kind
is
of
let me get this straight. I didn't know you and Adriana were partners.
we are now.
Okay,
She's
great.
actually figuring out how to move to America to be with me.
Oh,
That level of a partner. It's the kind of partnership that I always was looking for. It's the kind of partnership where we're in for everything in life, and it's how we can raise children wholly as a whole, as a wholeness rather than as you know a man and wife, as a partner in the same way that Jesus found in Mary.
yeah. It looks like Australia is moving to Florida then.
I mean, it's all one water, and I'm here to do my best to show up for this, and I don't understand it, but I'm reading the book, and today's lesson is love created me like itself, and I know the metaphor for light passing light onto light, the unity of water, and the idea that I'm a wave in the ocean. Oh, all these metaphors work to help us get a little deeper and a little bit more peace in some troubled times, just to make it through to the next moment so we can show up again for the next one.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow morning I'll show up at 6:30 and I'll read lesson 68. And
Very good.
it'll be good too. And I'll go to court in a couple of weeks, and if I win or if I lose, I'll still move forward and do the best I can to be a great dad. So that'll
Yeah.
be my part.
Yeah. Yeah. The book says, no, the question is, how is this love? Isn't that something that the book says?
Sounds like the book. I'd have to go check, but it sounds right.
I never read the book straight. I always read the
I
book
I have read the
like a
book
little bit
through.
here, a little bit there. So I
I've
don't know
read
where
through
the
like
things
five
are.
times, and that sounds like a facet in the diamond. It says it 1,000 different ways. It talks about love in 1,000 different ways, but it does come back to a oneness, love being a oneness, that knowledge of oneness, and your own knowledge being the deeper knowledge that guides you in life, and how you get to the answers that you need at a minute by minute basis by coming back to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I thank you so much for creating this space.
My pleasure. Obviously, I'm here to really try hard to get something right, and the more I feel like I try and show up authentically, the more it seems to work out. So I don't know how else to be more authentic. I'm still figuring out what it means to be authentic, but here I am trying to figure it out. So, and definitely always open to suggestions. I appreciate you pushing back. It's no problem. I appreciate it. It's all
I
good.
I I like to share what I have found that worked for me, because we're one, and I am thinking if it worked for me, it will work for somebody else for sure.
I mean, how else can we try and connect? I think, you don't know. The first time I was in Italy, I was 14, and um, my grandmother and I were coming out of the museum where David is, and she really liked that statue a lot.
Mm.
And then she was trying to step up onto the curb, I don't know if you know this, but the curbs there are
Yeah.
they're really tall. They're
Yeah.
like 10 inches, a foot tall, and she slipped on the curb and she fell and she broke her hip,
Oh.
and we had to take an ambulance down to Rome at 6 o'clock the next morning, and that started the trip back. It took 4 days to get home from Rome, and through um, through Germany, through the UK, into New York, and the last leg was in a four-seater airplane, and she had to be horizontal the whole time. It took 4 days. So airplane after airplane where she's horizontal, sometimes covering 3 seats at the back of a 737, but this last one was just a four-seater plane.
Mm.
And her husband was Lee Joseph Steen. I was named after him, same name as me.
Mm.
He was a pilot. um, and I guess I had a great last flight down. But at 14, I just at that point I had to navigate a system that there were no cell phones then.
Yeah.
I didn't have a credit card, so grandma didn't have, my nana didn't have a credit card. So we're traveling in the 80s, and we've got some travelers checks, but not enough to book four
Yeah.
sets of flights to get us home on air ambulance level. Oh my God, what a hassle.
But
But we figured
Italian
it out.
healthcare is free and it's very good.
Oh my God, if she'd have stayed, she'd have been better taken care of than what
I
we
know
did
the
when we
food is
got home.
amazing in the hospital.
It
You
really,
can smoke.
if we knew
Yeah.
then, but we know now. But I was 14 and she wanted to be back in Raleigh where she felt comfortable. And so I'm not going
Mm.
to argue that or anything else. I learned a lot of going with the flow.
I do the opposite. If I feel sick or if there's something wrong, I fly to Italy right away.
Listen, no, you're doing the same thing she did. That's not the opposite. You just know that in Italy you're going to get the healthcare you want, and she knew that she was going to get the healthcare she wanted
Yeah.
in America for whatever reason. And
Yeah, right.
anyway, I'm a 14-year-old kid. I'm not going to argue that or really anything else with my nana. She would get her way. She had fiery red hair, and she
Yeah.
got her way.
Yeah. Good.
So anyway, I am going to go get to work. I hope you have a great day. 2.5 hours on this call today. It was good. It was good for me.
Yeah.
Charlotte, Bill, hope you guys are doing okay. Don't know if you guys are even there. Probably be better if you're not.
It
But in case you
doesn't.
are, I'll invite you up so you can say hi or bye.
Yeah.
And that got rid of Bill, so maybe he's. Anyway,
Ciao.
Charlotte, how are you doing?
Hi guys, that was I got the end of your conversation here. That was very inspiring because I have gone through similar situations.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
Essentially,
that.
no. It's the other way. It's just
Oh, okay,
very
great then.
very inspiring to me to hear someone go through a really tough situation and still be able to stay focused on this journey that A Course in Miracles is taking us. Is trying to take us.
Oh my God, if you only knew. At this time, like I've got April 1st, I've got to be out from this place that I'm living in. The
Mm.
company that I work for is hiring for my position, and so I'm fighting for my job there. I really just met Andrea like in January, so that's a brand new relationship in life. This thing with my kids, like it's definitely a tumultuous time. I've got a lot to deal with, and honestly, just
Wow.
the best I can do right now is make a pretty good list in front of me to prioritize as much as I can think through, and then try and execute what's helpful and try and multitask where it's helpful, and then try and monotask. I'm a creative worker. I'm making websites for a living, so I have to sit down and actually do creative work.
Mm.
So I got to balance it all out, and it's okay. I'm minute by minute. It's beautifully sunny. We're going into springtime. I have so much to be grateful for. Adriana spends just about the whole day with me on Zoom or something else,
Wow.
so we can chat and talk, and I can stay in a good mood. And I've been looking for somebody to love me like this my whole life. It's a most amazing kind of pure love, and she definitely we connected here in this spiritual place first, and It feels more like a holy relationship than anything I've ever had, including the relationship with my dad, which is definitely another holy relationship. We've been partners in this book for years. We've been spiritual partners since I was 13. We started going the 12 steps together.
Wow.
He's been a great partner, absolutely like a brother, a great model for Jesus in my mind, as a brother on the path up the mountain to figure out how to work your way
Mm.
through this. And so I spent most of the last year suicidal. I literally
Are you
was
serious?
absolutely 100% serious here, showing up every day, still reading this book. I read the whole entire text from July 4th through the end of the year. And I was living with the woman for 5 years at that point, trying to figure out how to live closer to my kids. We're 60 miles away, 100 kilometers away.
Oh my gosh.
Every week I drove up here to Newburyport, spend the afternoon with them on Wednesday, pick them up from school and drop them off at 7 p.m. I moved to town and now they can spend the night with me, which is great. I get more time with them. I get to help them go off to school. And the last time I had a chance to help my own kids go off to school was when Grace was in kindergarten, and she's in 6th grade now.
Oh my gosh.
And
Oh
I,
God.
I revel in the more time with them, and
Mm-hmm.
more time means more friction. And it gives me a
Mm-hmm.
chance to be a teacher. It gives me a chance to screw up. And in this case, not to judge myself, but obviously could have handled the situation better. Did it the best I could figure out how to do, but my son went and talked to the social worker when he got to school. My daughter took a videotape of me and sent it to her mom. And
Oh
while I
God.
was gone dropping my son off at school, my wife described it as me getting my son in a headlock and then throwing him up on my shoulder.
Oh my gosh.
So the description is terrible. When I look at the video, I probably will remember stuff that I can't remember right this minute, but I guarantee you, I love this boy. He's a big boy. He weighs 100 pounds. If he doesn't want to go to school, it's really hard to get
Mm.
him to go to school. But I love him. I never would hit him or hurt him or anything like that. I had tried for 2 hours at that point to convince him to go to school. And I couldn't think of anything else. And I did the best I could, which sometimes still isn't that great. But I'm not a bad parent, and I certainly would not be abusive, and I love him, and God, I wish I had another chance to do it better.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I'm a coach. Okay. So I have learned like tools. I have a lot of tools and things that exercises and things that can help people, move forward from things. In your case, what I would invite you to do is become curious. I know it sounds silly, but whatever, like the situation you are in, ask, like, wow, like become curious, like, I wonder why this is happening, or I wonder why he doesn't want to go to school, or I want, like, become curious. Curiosity bring you to the present moment, the only
Wonderful.
place where you can actually create, and there is peace there because everything is always perfect in the present moment.
Yeah, coming back to the now moment is one of the main teachings here in A Course in Miracles, and
And
I've been doing self-help work since I was 13. Not you're This is a wonderful idea. It's a great go-to thing. The lady that I lived with for 5 years is a psychotherapist, and she gave sessions out of our house for the last 3 years.
okay,
Um,
great.
and I learned a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, tasks, tactics, all kinds of great things. I got a great tool set, and I definitely, when I come back to the moment and take a deep breath, one of my main practices is just to take a deep breath will bring me back to this moment and give me a chance to assess the situation, figure out how to respond with love, figure out how to bring it back. And I'm pretty good at it. I'm still
Yeah.
practicing getting better, and I can't wait for the chance to practice again to do it better. But I'll take every suggestion you can think of.
I'm I,
And I'll
listen,
report back here. And in the end, I'm gonna at least learn something and I'll have something I can offer back. I'm going to definitely be here reading these lessons every day this year. And so I'll bring myself here. I'll do my best to use this book to help transform the life back into love. I clearly having a hard time with the kids. I'm sure it'll be like that the rest of my life, but I'm going to still show up and they'll have plenty of evidence to know that I'm back here with love, trying again to do the right thing.
What I do is as work as well. I have like a set of job. I don't like to go to one job, so I have a set of jobs. One of my job is I'm an artist, and I create plank